James Grande. Welcome into the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook here on the breaking down Wednesday's 8-game main slate. James, I'm pulling up the DraftKings board right now for everybody to go take a look at it for us here. But it's a pretty decent 8-game slate. We're just watching a little bit of weather news here. A couple of the matchups that we do want to target here today could have some rain impact. That's probably the bigger overarching story so far because it's an 8-game slate. 3 games maybe dealing with some weather: Toronto, Boston, Cleveland, New York, and then Seattle, Oakland. Some potential rain there. Seems like Toronto, Boston, the safest of the two. I don't necessarily know if we're going to run into any full-on postponements, but maybe some delays or an in-game delay at some point could obviously, ruin some of the momentum we have when it comes to our lineup building and what we were talking about earlier this morning, because there are some pretty strong matchups that we liked.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's going to be much. First off, John, happy Wednesday to you, okay?
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. It doesn't look like we're going to have, there may be a couple delays, but it doesn't look like anything significant is going to take place here. But we'll see. I mean, New York looks like the worst spot, as you mentioned, but we will see if that's the case. There is a possibly the cover of today's MLB DFS Playbook in that game in Shane Bieber, not Justin, not brother of Justin either, just same last name, coincidentally. But yeah, interesting little 8-gamer. We have some interesting Vegas totals. We have some interesting, and everything again falls on the heels of what are we doing with Coors Field, John?
Right.
Because we talked about it Tuesday, and we strongly liked it. We were all in. The field was in, and it let us down completely. 5 runs. Now we have another great matchup. I mean, Eric Lauer has struggled mightily against righties. Kyle Freeland, we knew.
To be fair, I was in on Peralta last night. So
Correct.
But the other side of that game, we did think Milwaukee would have done more damage.
Right. I should have specified Milwaukee specifically. They were obviously the highest owned team on the slate, and for all those that pivoted to the Baltimores of the world, and you were rewarded. Right, you were rewarded. So
maybe you played Connor Wong.
Maybe you played Connor Wong. If you listen to this show, you definitely played Connor Wong. But let's look at some things that are going down in Vegas. Marcus Stroman and the Chicago Cubs up to a -195 favorite. That's on the heels of Washington announcing Jake Irvin, 26-year-old, making his major league debut today. So that was significant. That was a significant line move today. Shane Bieber actually lost a little bit on the money line, down to -130. I find that a little interesting. Alek Manoah, -140 still. Kyle Gibson, another guy who saw a lot of line movement in his favor going up against Zach Greinke and the Royals, opened at -148 over on DraftKings Sportsbook, -165. I see it at -170, as high as -170 in certain places. So those are really the biggest line movers. And then we get to over-under. Yesterday, we saw no movement on Coors Field. Today, there has been some slight movement. There has been some bets to the over. Open at 11.5. Over-under now sits at 12. Thoughts there? I mean, that's typically the case, I would say.
Yeah,
when a Freddie Peralta isn't pitching for the opposing team, right?
Exactly. The fact that we have that up to a 12 now is going to be pretty difficult to avoid, especially given the Lauer Freeland matchup there.
And then we also saw some movement. Toronto Boston has been bet up to 9.5, and you and I had a pretty good discussion this morning about Alek Manoah and just where the Boston's offense is and how many lefties are going to be thrown at him. So it's interesting to see that line on the move up to 9.5. Those are the 2 games moving upward. Chicago, Washington has actually dropped to 8 runs, opened at 8.5.
Yeah, we have the Red Sox official lineup out, and kind of as we expected here for Boston. There you go. Lefty Verdugo, lefty Yoshida, righty Turner, lefty Devers, lefty Duran, lefty Casas, lefty Valdez.
I think they need a couple. I think they need a couple more lefties. Honestly.
And then they got Kike Hernandez, and of course there was absolutely no way they were benching Connor Wong.
No.
So he's hit 9th tonight. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 9 hitters are left-handed here going up against Alek Manoah, including 4 straight hitters from Devers to Valdez here this evening. So we'll see if it comes through or not. But yeah, we're definitely here to kind of watch and see what's going on throughout the evening with some of these matchups for sure. We mentioned some of the weather already. We'll continue to monitor that as we get updates. So stay tuned closer to Roster Lock around 7 o'clock. James and I, of course, are in the Discord. If you're not already a member of the Discord here, make sure you go check all of that out. fantaslam.com/all-pro. We currently have a 7-day free trial you can go out there and check out. But also you get 50% off the first 6 months. It's $19.98 a month for those first 6 months using promo code MLB50. So once this stream ends, you hop right into that Discord, and we're with you guys till roster lock. So make sure you take advantage of everything that we got going on here. James, let's dive into it. Let's get there. Those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, get us in the chat. Ask us your lineup questions. Ask us your betting questions if you got them here. James and I are more than capable of helping you out. If you're playing on FanDuel, don't be shy. Ask us your FanDuel question. Just because we're looking at DraftKings doesn't mean we can't help out with your FanDuel lineups here tonight as well. If you're playing on other platforms, let us know. We'll certainly do our best to assist you there also. So, all of that housekeeping done. We go to pitching. Shohei Ohtani is your top price guy at 11.4 on DraftKings. Dylan Cease at 10.3. Shane Bieber at 9.5. Marcus Stroman's at 9,100 is your top 4. Stroman's the biggest favorite on the board in terms of Chicago versus Washington. I think it was like minus 190 or something like that. So
it's over 200.
Over 200 now. So if you're looking for that win equity play here, Stroman is your best case. Where are you kind of ranking the 4 though? How do you see that going down tonight?
It's funny because Stroman is the least likely rostered in terms of ownership. So it's always interesting to see like discrepancies like that. Him and Bieber are pretty close, but Ohtani and Cease are clearly like double and triple in Ohtani's case in terms of rostership of Bieber and Stroman. I think Cease would be last for me coming off his last few starts. I understand the upside with Cease, but I like the other matchups better. We've talked extensively about Shane Bieber, and we've talked extensively about the Yankees offense, particularly how bad it's been.
Yeah.
And there's not like signs of life. Things are getting worse. They place Aaron Judge on IL almost predictably after saying they wouldn't, right? Like that was the most predictable thing of the Yankee season, other than Carlos Rodon's back not being okay still. So close 1 and 2 for me, Bieber and Ohtani. Look, Ohtani has a bad start against Oakland and then has been dominant in literally every other time he stepped on the mound. Mm-hmm. When you just, because you can exclude the Boston rain game. Like that was a wash, right? He obviously is priced appropriately. And for what it's worth, like in years past where this wouldn't be as good of a spot because St. Louis offense is potent and they are not potent. And yes, they don't like strike out a lot but Ohtani is just one of those guys who can miss bats no matter what. St. Louis amongst the bottom half of the league in terms of OPS here against right-handed pitching. Same thing could be said for their WOBA, like they're right on middle of the pack and or below league average. So like, I don't have a problem getting to Ohtani. I think Bieber is a better per dollar play. If we get better reports on the weather, like if there's not going to be a chance of Bieber's start being shortened by rain, then I think he's number 1. Ohtani would be 2, Stroman 3, Cease 4. If there is any type of weather concern, I'll flop him probably behind Ohtani and Stroman, and maybe even behind Cease, just because, if Bieber goes 4 innings, there's an hour delay, doesn't come back out. I mean, we're 9,500. Like you're not winning many dollars.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And there's some decent value on today's slate, even though I think a lot of us are going to be looking to go to Coors, so some expensive bats there. But there's enough where you can get Ohtani and maybe a mid-tier pitcher, or even, we're going to talk about Varland here in a second, go and play Varland and then get the bats you want.
Right.
So, it's not impossible to get Ohtani in your lineup. I didn't list Ohtani on the DraftKings portion of the cheat sheet today. He was on the FanDuel side because he wasn't the top price pitcher on FanDuel. So, I felt like there was good value there to get him, even though he was, the second price guy. Just, Stroman, they had actually higher over there. I don't mind it. Those guys are all fine. Mid tier, I mean, Logan Gilbert, right? We were ready to play Kirby. We got swerved here by DraftKings. Logan Gilbert is the starter tonight. Basically the same price, though. Great matchup. Strikeout upside actually a little higher with Gilbert than Kirby. So this is all playing up pretty well.
Yeah, exact same price. 8,500 each. The matchup is obviously still elite, and he is the highest projected owned pitcher. That was something that you and I were talking about on the podcast. Like, we're pretty sure George Kirby is going to be, like, if not the highest rostered pitcher of the slate, like number 2. And sure enough, Logan Gilbert checking in at the highest rostered pitcher of the night. He's been a little unlucky this year, John. 4.23 ERA, expected ERA 2.80, xFIP 294. The 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, as you mentioned, is elite. Like, everything is kind of just trending in the right direction for Logan Gilbert. Love the 50% ground ball rate. That's his highest mark in his career too. Like, that's awesome. Because he has struggled with right-handed power the last few years. And he is, 1.3 home runs per 9 still this year is not great, but the 50% ground ball rate is going to keep the ball in the yard more often than not. So, yeah, I think Logan Gilbert is a smash play. We saw last night a rookie making his first start above AA. Literally perfect game into the 6th inning. So, and again, it's hard. It's not like apples to apples. Like, I'm not sitting here saying, okay, well, a rookie making his debut 6 innings, that means Logan Gilbert's going to throw a perfect game. No, that's not going to happen. But nonetheless, it's an elite spot. Oakland's bottom 10 in every statistical category against right-handed pitching. So as long as he gets Brent Rooker out, there should be no problems here.
Yeah, you think so. Story Ruiz last night, he was the one that doubled. So, no, I agree with you. And then for value here, well, I guess, is there any other mid-tier guys? Like, we got, Kyle Gibson's a decent favorite tonight against Kansas City, but I don't really want to go Kyle Gibson. Salvi is in the lineup after leaving last night's game. So, he's not like any weaker there. I know we're not looking at Pivetta. Like, Manoah, that's why I kind of just jumped down to Varland. Like, I think it's the top 4. It's Logan Gilbert, and then we take a dart here with Louis Varland. A lot of strikeouts in the minor leagues. One of the better pitching guys in this organization for Minnesota, potentially here. Now he gets a White Sox lineup, which we've talked about isn't great. Eloy did the damage last night, but that was about it. So, Varland to me is the dart throw value play tonight.
Fully agree. He was the cover of the value article I did over on fantasyalarm.com today. He was in your playbook today. He was talked about on the podcast extensively this morning. He has good strikeout stuff, and he's done it at every level. As per the Better Fantasy Twitter handle.
Number 10 prospect in the Minnesota organization. He is their number 4 pitching prospect. So,
yeah, he's good. He's good. Look, we've kind of talked about it a lot. And yes, did Tim Anderson return to give the White Sox a little more depth to their lineup? Sure. But even some of their supposed elite talent is not performing as such. Like, Luis Robert has been in a terrible slump. Benintendi provides essentially nothing but singles, hitting second. And then the back half of their lineup is Gavin Sheets, Yasmani Grandal, Jake Berger, and Elvis Andrus. Like, that is not potent at all. He has 3 guys that we're essentially looking out for right now. He gave up 3 home runs, and that he did give up home runs in the minors as well. But I think Varland is the clear-cut value. The public also thinks so. I will say this about Alek Manoah, John, and I'm kind of going back to where I was this morning. He's adapting to the pitch clock. He has struggled with it. The last 2 starts have been better. The walks last start were concerning, and obviously that drove the pitch count up. He didn't make it. He got it through 5 innings, and but only 2 earned his last 2 starts. 12 strikeouts over those last 2 starts. And I know Boston's offense is potent, and you mentioned, the plethora of lefties just in the top half. I mean, the first 6 of 7 batters are lefties going up against Manoah. But it's just sometimes like you think of you take Louis Varland, right, in DFS, and you take Louis Varland, who is projected to be the third highest rostered pitcher today, right? And then you take and it's Louis Varland, who is the 10th prospect in the Twin system. He's made 6 career starts at the major league level. And then you take Alek Manoah, proven ace of a team for the last 2 seasons, someone that was highly coveted coming into the year in fantasy. No real weaknesses, I'd say, in Alek Manoah's game on the mound. And he's $7,200. Like sometimes, yes, it is not the best spot, but like when Louis Varland is actually 20% projected higher in terms of ownership, in a tournament, I don't hate taking a shot on the just better pitcher, right? Like Alek Manoah, for the time being, and Louis Varland could turn into the best pitcher of all time, is the better pitcher, at least based on his track records thus far throughout their career. So I'm not saying I'm going to sit here and like Alek Manoah is my favorite arm on the slate, but it is very condensed after we get past Logan Gilbert. Like after Logan Gilbert, 8,500.
If you're looking for other guys to pitch.
Yes.
Manoah,
I do think Manoah's, I do think he is the, every name that we haven't mentioned, he's the best guy, the best pitcher on the board.
Yes.
Talent.
By past talent, correct. Now, we don't know if this year is just a bad year for him. You look at his 2 most recent starts, right? New York and Seattle. Well, we're in New York and Seattle right now in terms of offensive.
Touche.
Terrible. Right. And what's the one concern we've had about Manoah? Those walks are brutal, man.
Yeah.
4-5-4, 1 against the Yankees, 4 against Seattle. If he was facing a better team than Seattle and he walked 4, he may have given up more than 2 runs.
Sure.
That's my only but and Boston's been good at home, dude. That they just hit at home. So I get you. If we're looking down this range, you're like, who of this group has the potential to be the number 1 pitcher, like on the slate from a talent standpoint? Well, we've seen Alek Manoah be a 10K pitcher before.
Yeah.
So like, I would agree with you. I would put him in that range of GPP tournament plays tonight that we just saw him go through against the Yankees and give us 24 fantasy points. We saw him in opening his second start of the year against Kansas City, throw a 1-hitter, give us 26 fantasy points. So I'll agree with you. There are spots this year where he has gone lights out and knocked those guys out and looked like he was in the past. More starts this year he hasn't, but on a slate like today where it's super top heavy, and then to your point, like Louis Varland is the best value maybe. I would agree with you there. You can't even go at Miles Mikolas here. Last start against San Francisco is pretty good. Last year he was good at home. He's pitching at home here, but I don't know. It's unsexy. It's an unsexy play as well.
Yeah, it's just a guy who doesn't miss bats, and the Angels this year are like a middling team against right-handed pitching, and a spot that we could attack, but it's just hard to use. And that's my point with Manoah. Like, we know there's upside in terms of strikeouts. With Mikolas, it's like 6 strikeouts is a miracle. I know he's done it 3 times this year, but like,
and he had to do it in the last start against like the most strikeout prone team in baseball.
Right.
So
right.
I agree. I agree with you there. Again, you look at his recent Seattle as well. No surprise that he pitched relatively well against them. Little low win equity with Mikolas here against Ohtani. So, all right, let's go on over to the catcher spot where last night you basically could have just closed your eyes and clicked. Most catchers had themselves quite a night last night.
Except William Contreras.
William Contreras, yeah. But Adley Rutschman last night, 4 for 5. Good on Baltimore for getting it right. Number 1 overall pick. Took Adley Rutschman. Guys in the league in 2 years. Immediately an all-star, number 1 catcher. $5,500 though. If you're playing Baltimore tonight, you got to play him. But that's a hefty cost. Then you got William Contreras and Elias Diaz with your Coors Field matchup there. And then Salvi double donged last night as well. 2 home runs for him, 34 fantasy points. So you're looking at your top 5 catchers. I don't think I'm going to throw the other Contreras in there against Ohtani, but
No.
Rutschman, William, Elias, Salvi, I'm good with all of those plays.
I'm good with all of them too. I think Salvi's a little contrarian. We mentioned on the podcast this morning, Kyle Gibson's been really bad against lefties specifically, but dude, like the Royals are not this bad. Like I know the bottom half of their lineup is, but like, are they this bad? Are they this bad? I mean, I get it. The record suggests they are. They're 7-23, whatever. But like, Salvi 291 against righties, 345 WOBA as well. 4 home runs against righties. Again, lefties have been the ones doing damage against Kyle Gibson this year. Salvi's contrarian for me because I do think a lot of people get to Rutschman. I do think a lot of people love playing Elias Diaz against lefties, which is warranted because he's been good against them and he's good at home. But I think Salvi is the contrarian of the bunch here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. When we go down into sort of the mid-tier range, any of these names kind of stick out to you that you're queuing in on? I mean, we know Connor Wong's down there. We'll talk about him in a moment. But once you get past Salvi, I mean, Melendez is 4K. You just kind of mentioned the lefty matchup for him there. Maybe Carantini gets in a lineup tonight. He's 3,500. He gets the lefty spot against Freeland. But like Jeffers, Kirk, Kybert, Yasmani, like any of those interest you at all? I mean, like, and when I say interest you, like, would you honestly consider putting them in a lineup?
Probably MJ Melendez, and that's it. That's probably it. I would throw Kirk into the mix too. You know, I am not a big Nick Pivetta fan. The only problem with Kirk is he's just had so few notable fantasy games compared to what it was last year. I know last year was a breakout season. I just don't know if there's like, why would I just spend 3,300 when I could just honestly I know I just spent 7 minutes touting Alek Manoah, but why wouldn't I just play Connor Wong instead?
Right.
Coming off
even if Connor Wong doesn't hit, he's $2,300.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And he's got 3 home runs the last 2 games. He's got 9 hits the last 3. I talked extensively about Connor Wong on yesterday's show. He was on fire at AAA last year. It earned him his promotion. Offensive first catcher, hit for a lot of power last year, but also sneaky speed. He has 2 seasons of 7 stolen bases and another of 11 at the minor league level. Had a stolen base the other day, so it's not impossible to see him try to run in the right moment here as well. Hitting 9th, so there's a wraparound stack up potential here for him as well. So, I feel like Wong won't be 3% roster tonight. I don't think. I think people will go to him just for punt reasons. He won't be the highest owned catcher. I still think Coors draws that matchup, but it wouldn't shock me if Connor Wong got a little bit more love today.
From what I'm seeing, he's going to be 3% owned again.
That would be a mistake. It feels like, but
I mean, you have to. I think the factors are we have 2 catchers in Coors that are in good spots themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have Rutschman in a great spot, and that soaks up how much of the ownership, right? Like, I don't disagree with you because, like, some of the guys projected with higher ownership, Yan Gomes, Kybert Ruiz, Cal Raleigh, I would play Connor Wong over. And I just mentioned Alejandro Kirk is one of 4 catchers that are projected double-digit ownership. I would rather play Connor Wong over Alejandro Kirk.
So. Yeah, I would agree with you. And again, it all depends on your roster build too. If you need a savings, like go down there. If you're building a stack with Contreras or Diaz tonight, then yeah, they're hit in the middle of the lineup. Elias Diaz is hitting 330. I mean, like, he has been an absolute beast this year. So, makes sense. First base. I mean, Crone hasn't been very good this season, but maybe he's starting to come around. So $5,100 for him. Mountcastle feels like a great opportunity for him at 47. We've talked about all the BVP for Toronto against Pivetta here. I mean, he's 6,200. We always talk about nobody plays Toronto stack, but we got them as one of the higher rostered teams outside of or highest projected teams outside of that Coors Field game tonight for scoring. So, maybe there's some Vladdy appeal up top. I made it known in the playbook. I like Josh Naylor tonight, $3,900. I kind of like Cleveland lefties against Schmidt if that game goes off. So if I'm not spending up, I'm going Naylor or Bell. If I am spending up, it's Mountcastle and I guess Crone for me.
Yeah, John, Crone is prone to break out. And you nailered that with Josh. I had to get him out, okay? We're at first. We got a lot of time left. We're in lockstep there with we're in lockstep there with Josh Naylor. I wrote him up in the value plays too. He's been coming alive, and we've talked about Cleveland isn't a team that is like typically a team you're going to see with 12 runs on the board. They are scraping 6 runs together at their peak. I know they're going to put big numbers up there eventually. They're 162 game season, but like they don't provide a lot of like thump. But Naylor is one of those guys. He is hitting, well of late. 3,900 I think is a great price tag for him. Clark Schmidt has been dreadful. Like dreadfully bad against lefties. So the Guardians have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their first 7 batters hit from the left side tonight, including 2 guys at first base in Naylor and Josh Bell from the left side.
Good spot on FanDuel to play them because they're also dirt cheap on FanDuel too.
Right.
To play utility and first base. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the one upside to FanDuel you have, especially in a situation like this.
Right in the pricing because George Springer and Varsho are under $3,000 on FanDuel tonight. So if you can play a lot, you can play a lot over on FanDuel today.
Yes, but I agree with your assessment of those 4 or 5 guys, including Vladdy at first base.
Yep. Anybody else that you want to mention, or are you ready to kind of move on over?
So I was interested a little bit in Trey Mancini. When you look at Jake Irvin, that's the Washington Nationals starter tonight. He's making his major league debut. He's 26 years old. He missed 2 years with injury in the 2020-21 seasons. Has not been great in the minors since coming back. Was struggling against righties last year, and that's been the case again this year. Righty's hitting 280 with a 460 slug and an 806 OPS against him. Trey Mancini probably in the midst of the best stretch of his season. You know what's interesting to me, John? The Cubs lineup is interesting. You know why? They're hitting Patrick Wisdom for some reason, again, 8th. You know who leads Major League Baseball in home runs this year, John?
Is it Wisdom?
It's Patrick Wisdom, hitting 8th.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned...
Game, so.
Well, I'm proud of you. Like the Cubs have like an interesting dynamic to the second half of their lineup because Suzuki 5th, Mancini 6th, Hosmer lefty 7th, but Wisdom 8th. Like the bottom half of that lineup has some serious thump. And if righties are what's going to do Jake Irvin in, 3 of those 4 guys are from the right side. Suzuki can hit a home run, steal a base. Mancini can homer. Wisdom obviously can, hit it out of any ballpark. So I do think there is some appeal to Mancini tonight. And I know the Cubs just let us down last night. Like you and I had a lot of interest in the Cubs. They have a really nice team total at 5 runs. That's the 5th highest on the board tonight. And think about like where all the ownership's going to go tonight. Milwaukee, Colorado.
It's a good bounce back spot for all the teams who wanted to play last night.
It really is.
And then didn't let it go. Well, you mentioned the great pricing on FanDuel for like guys like Varsho and Springer. Your second highest price outfielder tonight is Cody Bellinger. He is just below Mike Trout by like $100. So I don't know. You can't really get the Bellinger over on FanDuel today, but you can play him on DraftKings where he was basically where he was yesterday. So we'll talk about outfield momentarily here. Get on to second base. Nico Horner's $5,300. Again, I don't think I'm getting into Nico Horner here. You got to really be committed to the Chicago stack to pay $5,300 for a slap hitter that can steal some bags.
No, don't you dare address Nico Horner like that when he has belted 2 home runs this year, okay?
I know. Listen, I get it. I understand, but he's 10 stolen bases. So That's where we're only 5 doubles and a triple. So he's got 8 total extra base hits out of his 40 hits this year. So good singles guy, but he turns those singles into triples, right? So
True.
we got that there. Andres Jimenez hitting 6 at 4,500. He's been god awful, but just willing to throw the dart here on the matchup. Lefty power in Yankee Stadium. You get that right field line. If you pull power, there's some interest there for me. After that, again, I think we just dive down into the value tier. Anybody that I'm missing that you want to discuss first?
Second base is the worst position on the board.
It
For
feels
sure.
that way.
I'm fully in agreement on Horner's probably priced too high. Polanco has a tough matchup. 2 guys that we've liked playing. I do think Jimenez is in a spot that not a lot of people go to because he's 4,500 and has struggled. But again, Clark Schmidt's been horrible against lefties. So he has that going for him. There's no one really else I'd mention. I think where I would get to is 3,200 Ramon Urias.
Yep.
Who has been notoriously good against righties. There's multi-position eligibility. And then probably, John, your favorite player in the MLB, and you can't dispute this because you've said it to me numerous times, is Owen Miller.
Owen Miller, yeah.
He is 3K, and again, they're very underwhelming stats for Owen Miller. He has 3 doubles on the year. You don't need to play Owen Miller. He's also the highest projected owned second baseman of the night. So
because he's hitting 300 against lefties. So.
Right. He's been fine against lefties, but it's also I'm not mad if I don't get to a chalky Owen Miller.
Well, I mean, I thought you were about to go the Emmanuel Valdez route here on me.
Well, that was my pivot from Miller. A guy who just has infinitely more
offensive
upside,
potential.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Emmanuel Valdez hit his first career home run the other day. Absolute bomb. He had 3 doubles in the game, 3 games prior. So starting to heat up again. He was one of the players acquired in the Christian Vasquez trade from Houston. He's a bat first player, terrible in the field. But they like the offense, and he's come up and he's hit. And we mentioned they're throwing a whole bunch of lefties at Manoah here tonight. So maybe Emmanuel Valdez finds a spot here. But I got nothing else. I would maybe consider Whit Merrifield, but that's probably it.
I feel like at that point you would just use Valdez, right? Because, again, another guy who's just not... Emmanuel Valdez has more extra base hits in the last 4 games than Owen Miller has all year, and is only halfway there to Whit Merrifield's extra base hits in the last 4 games. I think Whit's fine in cash because I Pavetta's a gas can, but
yeah. True. In 7 games by Valdez, he has 4 extra base hits.
But that's all in 4 games. The last 4 games, he has 4 extra. He's already halfway there to Merrifield.
It's true. It's fair. All right, third base, loaded up top. You can play any of them. And literally any of them, probably except for Arenado. Devers, Chapman, Ramirez, Wisdom. Arguments?
No, I don't. What's your if you had to lean any direction, who is your lean? If you're only picking one, they're all similarly priced, excluding Wisdom. He's obviously 4,500. But who is the one? You can say Devers, and I don't think it's a homer pick. If you want to say Devers, say Devers.
Well, the thing is, I don't want to say Devers. I'm leaning Jose Ramirez. And how much I really don't like the player all that much for DFS.
Well, he's very expensive. He's very expensive.
Very expensive. He had 20 fantasy points a few weeks ago, but only 2 games this season over 20 fantasy points for a $5,600 player. But in Yankee Stadium, he'll hit left-handed against Schmidt. There's some potential here for that.
We want to bring up the Clark Schmidt numbers.
Yeah, we
against lefties.
You got him. I know you got him.
Clark Schmidt against lefties this year, 396 average allowed, a 1,200 OPS. If you want to round up to 1,300, you can. 526 WOBA allowed.
Yeah, it's not good.
Hitting third. Ramirez this year, John, 360 average against righties, 424 WOBA.
I know. I'm telling you, like this is a player I never play. Today I feel like I have to play him. So
Well, you can just blame me if it doesn't work, okay? Just you're gonna message me anyway and say this is why I don't play Jose Ramirez if he goes 0 for 4
100%.
anyway. So
100%.
I mean,
Just mentally getting prepared for the disappointment that's going to be there for me. Again, Wisdom, even if he's hitting eighth, I'm fine, 4,500, but he's probably more of a one-off play at that price, given his batting position, than he would be part of any stack for me.
I mean, it depends. Again, I think there's a case to be made for the 5, 6, 8 if you want to go righty stack, because that's where Jake Irvin has struggled. Seiya, Wisdom, Mancini. You weren't obviously bullish on Mancini as I was, and Seiya probably not either. I'm perfectly fine saying the Wisdom one off is also in play. I have a weird thing with the Cubs this year anyway.
That's fine. I would prefer to play him as a one-off.
That's fair.
Brian Anderson's 4,200. I know he's hit righties a little bit better this year, but 4K cores play. Eugenio Suarez may go pretty overlooked tonight.
Yep.
And we profiled it the other day. And again, I know he is also like the rest of this organization, just slumping, just really bad numbers right now.
Really bad.
But he's still hitting like over 300 against left-handed pitching. So, and what is the JP Sears? So, I think Suarez could be an interesting spot there. Brousseau probably starts tonight, right?
Yeah, no lineup yet. I was just looking. I'm pretty sure we got the Coors Field lineups during this show yesterday, so I'm expecting that to happen at some point. But he's hit and in the top half of the lineup every time there's been a lefty.
Right. So I mean, Brousseau is here. A little bit of power, definitely better against lefties. Obviously, the only time he cracks a lineup, $3,500 for him. And that's like it. Like, there's no other third base. So, like, Owen Miller is probably high because people look at third base and like, what am I playing here? So, Owen Miller probably slots in at third tonight.
Yep, that's exactly it. Like, I mean, both second and third, I think, were pretty bad.
Sure.
Third, you at least have like the top heavy nature of it, like where you could play Devers and Ramirez and Wisdom if you wanted, and even Matt Chapman if you wanted. But I do agree. What the Owen Miller ownership also factors in the dual eligibility.
Yep. Shortstop here. Willie Adames last night. Poor Willie. Did not come through for us like we had hoped. Feltner was out there just, I don't know, pitching the best game he's ever had in his life. But he's $6,100 now and it's the wrong split side for him. You know, if you don't play him, he's going yard. So
he's hitting 154 against lefties. He is 100% double down.
Not making any contact at all against left-handed pitching. $6,100.
John, here's their projected top 5 averages against lefties this year. Ready? Mike Brousseau is hitting 185 this year against lefties. Willie Adames is hitting 154. Christian Yelich is hitting 231. Brian Anderson is hitting 174. And let me throw Luke Voigt in there because Luke Voigt's been cracking lineups against lefties, John. 0-42. He's 1 for 24 against lefties. That is horrible.
Not good. Horrible. Yeah, that is ugly for sure. Man, so what do you think?
Well,
would you
No. But it is one of those things because we've talked about Milwaukee against lefties all season, right? It's like,
they're terrible.
They strike out more than anyone. They have the lowest OPS in the league. They have the lowest WOBA in the league.
And all their good hitters are lefties.
All their good, and
their right-handed good hitter only hits right.
Yeah. So like this is the conflict. Like the one on this shoulder is like, yes, play Kyle Freeland. This shoulder is like, you're psycho to play Kyle Freeland because it's Coors.
And Kyle Freeland's trash.
But he's so bad. We knew the blow up was coming. The blow up came. Like, I feel like you can get away with not stacking Brewers tonight and still not playing Kyle Freeland, right?
Sure.
Like, there's enough damage to
Play the
where
Rockies is what you're saying.
we haven't talked a lot about the Rockies.
We haven't hit
Elias,
any of their good players.
true, that is true.
There's two
yeah.
of them, and they're in the outfield. So,
touche.
Yeah, we hit Crown and Diaz. I lied. So we talked.
Well, we have one at short here. We have a couple of them here at short.
Short Rockies, good Rocky shortstops.
There's one good Rocky shortstop.
They roster a shortstop. Sure, is he good?
There's actually two shortstops in the lineup tonight. One of which is good. I actually believe is good.
Tovar or Trio?
Tovar has been better lately. Hits in 5 straight, 7 of 8 overall, 4 RBIs over that span, 4 extra base hits over that span, including like everyone predicted, he had his first home run on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not sitting here. I think the shortstop position at the top is pretty strong. Adames, if you want to get there, but Bichette obviously is scorching the earth. Jorge Mateo is the best player in baseball. Dansby, I think, is actually pretty interesting considering righties have hit Irvin at the minor league level extremely well. So, it's not a position lacking depth, but Tovar at 3K is interesting. I think NATO 29, those guys are interesting too.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That's obviously your value. If we go up top, we talked about Damas, Bo Bichette followed up his 5-for-5 game with an 0-for-2 with 2 walks last night. But again, gets Pivetta here this evening. I think what is he 10-for-24? I think you said against Pivetta. He had some really good BVP numbers there.
Let's look
against our guy. I think Bobby Witt's still in play against Gibson. I'm fine with that, but I wrote up Jorge Mateo in my top hitters group. Just continues to dominate. Last night, I know he only went 1-for-5 with the RBI, but power, speed, it's all there for Jorge Mateo, and we don't think much of Zach Greinke.
Yeah, and he has 3 2 stolen base games already this year, so it's kind of surprising to see 4 games in between his last stolen base, but this is what happened.
Well, you know why?
He's hitting home runs.
Well, because they're also moving up into the middle of the order.
True.
You run less when you're not hitting 8th or 9th, probably.
True. Moved them back to 6th. He was hitting 5th on Tuesday, right? They said you didn't do great in the 5th spot, so back down to 6th you go, Jorge.
They get Sedmo hitting leadoff again tonight.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, right back to the well with Mateo. Righty's hitting 292 against Zach Greinke. So, and you were spot on, 10-for-24 for Bo Bichette off of Pivetta, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs.
Yeah, there's a lot of good EVP for Toronto here against Nick Pivetta. So
sure is.
We'll be working our way to that. Mid-tier, I didn't really find much that I was interested in here. Nope. I mean, if Bieber's not the Bieber, Volpe could get on and steal a bag, right? Bieber's been hittable. He hasn't been striking out a lot of guys. He hasn't been perfect. But that lineup is just so bad. But if Volpe gets on, last night, 2-for-4, a homer, 2 stolen bases. I'm not gonna say he can't do that against Shane Bieber the way Shane Bieber's been pitching this year. So, is it the spot I'm targeting today? No. But if you want to be different, I don't think anybody's playing Anthony Volpe. So.
I mean, he just has even if you exclude the home run he hit yesterday, he still is a monster. It's still a monster game, So, perfectly fine getting there. It's like you said, it's not a priority of mine, but it's a top heavy and then a couple value plays potentially.
Yeah.
The masses are going to Willy Adames, which is what makes everything else interesting because the masses are just clicking on Coors Field,
right?
Instead of
looking realizing that Willy Adames hasn't had a hit off a lefty in 3 years, right? So. And then Zach Nato, $2,900 back to leadoff here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I like that spot for him. Anybody else for you?
No,
I don't think so. Right?
No,
we talked Coors already.
Yeah.
All right. Outfield then. Let's see here. We got Trout is your top price guy. We assumed. Mullins is at 6K. Chris Bryant at $5,900. Tell me, not as potent as a top group that we've seen. on other slates. Only 8 games here tonight. So, and you can't play Ohtani because he's pitching, because whatever reason that is the case for DraftKings. So, I mean, like, talk to me. Like, what are your thoughts on this top group of outfielders?
I don't love it. I don't love it, and that makes me want to spend up at pitcher, I think, a little bit more because I don't, or spend up at other positions. Like, you can always get to Mike Trout. We're not going to sit here and tell you not to get to, the best player of our generation, one of the
Right.
best players of all time. I don't dislike Cedric Mullins. Like, I love the spot for Cedric Mullins. He was on base 3 times yesterday. They scored a whole bunch of. He's 6K though. For Is he 6K because he was like one of the best fantasy revelations 2 years ago?
All right.
I don't like. I'd like to play Cedric Mullins in this spot. I don't think I'm going to get to him at 6K though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get to Yelich at 56 and a lefty. Chris Bryant, although he's been,
really?
yeah, I mean, he finally hit his home runs at Coors, and he's been better in Coors. So, like, there is a case for Chris Bryant.
He's got 270 slug the last 10.
Dude, it's just like, that's the problem with what Chris Bryant's turned into. Now, what we know is righties crush Eric Lauer this year. 310 average, 910 OPS, 391 WOBA. Like, Chris Bryant has a 361 WOBA and 2 of his 3 home runs against lefties. He's always hit lefties well. That's the case for Chris Bryant. But $59 freaking $100?
Yeah, I mean, it's a premium, which is why I don't. You all the ownership you say is going there, so it's like, all right, well, they can't spend up for everybody. So, like, who's being left off this train, right? Bryant also career versus Lauer, 3 for 9 with a homer. Cron's only 1 for 9, not great there. Charlie Blackmon, believe it or not, 12 for 24 with 2 home runs and 3 doubles off Eric Lauer. So even though it's a lefty-lefty matchup, Blackmon seeing that matchup for him pretty well here. Righties against Eric Lauer this season, 310, 540 slug, 911 OPS. Not good numbers there.
Yeah, I mean, and what do we have for this Rockies lineup? I know Blackmon leading off. So Profar second, Bryant third, Cron. So 2 through 6 right-handed bats, and then you get the 8-9. So 6 out of 9 batters hitting from the right side. Look, what do you and I talk about a lot? And we're going to talk about one as Mark chimes in here on Grishik. Like, nobody usually plays Rockies and Coors. It's always the other way around. Right. Rockies are getting a little ownership tonight. Grishik is the 3rd highest projected owned outfielder on the slate, behind 2 Brewers. He's actually wedged in between 3 Brewers. Grishik is like my favorite play of the slate, I think, truthfully.
We know for his career, he's a guy that hits lefties really well. I was just going to go pull up a TV. Actually, I didn't even look to see what his BVP was, if there were any for him. Let's see. Grishik. Only 4 at bats, 1 for 4 with an RBI there. But to the point of his lefty splits there, one, he's come back and he's done nothing but hit. He's been really strong since his return to the lineup. He's hitting 500 as it is on the year. Last season against lefties, though, 308 with a 920 OPS. Overall, that's not even like his home splits versus lefties, which I'm sure are even better. Definitely a guy that's always profiled hitting lefties better than righties. So, yeah, listen, I agree. I think that you could take a look at Grishik at his price point tonight. No problems at all getting him in the lineup.
Here are the home splits last year for Randall Grishik against left-handed pitching. 391 average, 805 slug, John. 805 slug.
It's greater than Barry Bonds.
1200 OPS, 414 ISO, 514 WOBA. Those are, I mean, you heard it here, folks. Like, John thinks that Randall Grishik is better than Barry Bonds. So.
In Coors Field against left-handed pitching.
That is the caveat, yes.
Yes.
3,900 Randall Grishik core play. I think he's under 3K over on FanDuel as well. Yeah. If I remember correctly, when I was doing the value vault, I think he was under 3K. Great play. And I know there's a bunch of guys we missed in this like 5K to 4K range, but I like Grisham better than all of them.
I mean, listen, there's the Red Sox hitters there, Yoshida and Verdugo, 47 and 4,800 hitting 1-2. Dalton Varsho, another guy with some decent potential here, $4,700 for him. Right down that line. We talked about going with, we like our Cubs here tonight.
Yep.
Seiya, Happ, Bellinger, and Wisdom. Wisdom with the dual eligibility, all right in that mid 4K range here at pricing. So 4K definitely has bats that we like. It all depends on your roster construction. If you're a believer that Alek Manoah hasn't figured it out, like loading up on Red Sox lefties here is a pretty viable option for you. Jarren Duran's back in the lineup tonight, and he's hitting fifth, $3,500. So I mean, to your point, you can go Profar at 38, Grichuk at 39, Duran at 35, and then go spend up at the other positions if you needed to, right? Like there's your value, in the outfield. Eloy Jimenez, he homered last night. He's been on a nice little run. We've talked about it. Eloy is not a 3K player.
No.
Louis Varland is okay. We like him tonight for the matchup, but like if Luis Robert and Tim Anderson and Eloy Jimenez start to hit like they're supposed to, those guys can all be productive. And Eloy Jimenez is a $4,100 player, not a $3,100 player. So, certainly could go ahead and get a guy like that in your lineup as maybe a one-off play here tonight. I'm trying to see if there's like even any more cheaper guys. I don't think so. I mean, dude, Baltimore's got Kyle Stowers hitting fifth.
Yeah, they did. I think they hit him fourth the other day, and he was pinch hit for. It's just
he has 1,000 OPS at the International League at AAA this year.
Yeah, he is supposed to be very good. And Greinke's been very, very bad against left-handed bats. So like, Baltimore has a boatload of lefties in this. John, they have 5 outfielders in their lineup tonight, or at least a eligible 5 that all hit from the left side of the plate. 5.
I feel like you'll have to play Stowers tonight if you're playing O's. He's a 2K5 hitter, right?
It's a 2K5 hitter that has pop.
Lets you get Adley at 5K, right? And Rutschman and Mountcastle at 47. Mateo's up there, so like you probably have to roster Stowers if you're going Baltimore tonight, just to save the money.
Yeah. So last year he had a 34-game sample with the team, 3 home runs. Obviously not the best.
Yeah, he doesn't have a great average this year at AAA. It's 260, but he has 1,000 OPS. So hitting 5 home runs in 17 games. He's just hitting for power.
Dude, he in 2021, between 3 levels, he hit 27 home runs. He had a 515 slug. Last year at AAA, 95 games, 19 home runs, 527 slug. Like he's just a lefty power hitter hitting 5th. And as you mentioned, like if you are playing Rutschman, Mountcastle, and like even if you wanted to squeeze Sedmol in that or Mateo, like none of those guys are cheap. Not a single one of them. All right. So you're spot on. You're spot on there with.
He's got to be in your lineup tonight against Greinke for sure. All right, we got a couple more minutes. Let's build that line. We'll build one with Coors. We'll build one without Coors here, James. Let's start without. Okay. If we're going with out Coors Field, tell me the pitcher that we're plugging in first.
Logan Gilbert.
Okay.
That's probably the first place. I'm gonna check Roth. Let's see if Roth has any updates for us on
the weather. He thinks everything's going to be okay. He's still maybe a little worried about New York if the rain just settles in over the stadium, but other than that, it feels like we're okay weather-wise.
Yeah, 20 minutes ago, he used the tweet that he put out that he, if the batch of rain does end up over the ballpark, it could be a long night. So, like my ideal pairing is probably Bieber Gilbert. That is probably where I would like to go. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think Gilbert is just easy, and then move on from there and deciding what we want to do. Like if we want to go all the way down to Varland, or if we want to go up to Bieber or Ohtani.
Well, if we're not going Coors, let's see what we can do here. If I go Ohtani Gilbert, that gives us 37 a play. I might just plug Stowers in anyway since he's hitting 5th.
This is our build without course field, correct?
Right. No course. Okay. So he's 2K. We get 4K a player.
We're playing Connor Wong in this lineup for sure at 2,200.
Yeah, because we have Ohtani in the lineup, so we need some salary saving here. So $4,300 here. Do you want to make this a Toronto Boston stack?
We could do that. Yeah.
What else did you have an idea on?
I was just messing around since we played Stowers. I went Mountcastle at first. It doesn't feel great without Rutschman, but I did go Mountcastle Stowers 3-5, and then
Mullins.
I don't know if it's like Mullins. Like what?
You don't have to throw.
You can go Santander hitting 4th, but he's been better against lefties.
You could 2-stack it. Mountcastle's Stowers is still 3-5.
Yeah, that still plays.
Second base, then Ramon Urias is 8. You go 3-5-8. You just kind of sprinkle your lineup around Baltimore.
Or instead you go Mateo hitting 6th, and that kind of works in your stack if you wanted to go with your boy Valdez at 2nd.
Yep. Okay, so go Mateo here 49, Valdez at 2nd.
You have a ton of money in this lineup with Valdez at 2nd.
Yeah. Third base, Jose Ramirez. Are we worried about rain here?
I don't think so. It didn't.
No, we can go Wisdom.
I don't think the rain. It does from what it looks like. I don't think and if we're fading cores, we're taking shots anyway, right? So
sure.
Might as well go Ramirez.
All right, $4,100. Duran's 35. Might as well just plug.
Yep.
$4,700. Verdugo, Varsho, Wisdom.
I like literally all 3 of those players.
Just finish the Red Sox stack. And
I like all 3 of those players.
All right, so this is our anti-cores lineup. We got a 4-man Boston stack. We got a 3-piece Baltimore with a 1-off Jose Ramirez. Double spend up at pitcher here with Logan Gilbert, Shohei Ohtani, Connor Wong, Ryan Mountcastle, Emmanuel Valdez, Jose Ramirez, Jorge Mateo, Kevin Stowers, Jarren Duran, Alex Verdugo here.
John, do you like Seattle? Ask Ryan. Shout out Ryan. What's up, brother? Yeah, it's hard to like Seattle.
Hard to like Seattle because of just how bad that offense has been. But again, JB Sears, right? If JB Sears goes out tonight and shuts down the Seattle Mariners, things need to be addressed in Seattle.
Yes.
So listen, Ryan, I mentioned Eugenio Suarez. I think he's fine. Teoscar Hernandez should be able to hit lefties. Fine. Julio Rodriguez is questionable, so you have to see if he's in the lineup. But I don't know what else in Seattle I want there. They've all been so bad. France. Do
you want to hear something interesting that I'll say in Jared Kelnick's?
He's hitting lefties this year.
Yes, 381 average, 501 WOBA. JP Sears against lefties, small sample, but 381 average against, 387 WOBA against.
Yeah, Sears is trash. Listen, Ryan, if you're making lineups tonight, you want to be different, I'm fine with it. Again, Sears is not a good pitcher.
No.
It's just that Seattle, outside of the Yankees and Oakland, has been the worst offense in baseball. So it is what it is. All right, let's get our Coors Field lineup in. Give me your number. Are we going to keep plugging Ohtani? Maybe go Varland?
Want to do Bieber Varland?
Bieber Varland? Okay.
He's the cover your playbook.
By the way, it's 4K a player, so could do. But
he's the cover your playbook. We got to show some love to Shane Bieber.
Right. Bieber Varland here.
So I started Elias Diaz. Randall Grishik, Jerickson, Profar. That's how I started the build.
We probably still have to play Stowers here.
I don't know. $4,500 left after that.
Okay. Crone.
Yeah, we could go Crone to finish the 4-pack out.
Yeah. Okay. $4,300 second baseman. We go on Owen Miller or Ednad Valdez.
I kind of want Valdez still. I just think he has more upside.
Okay. Do you think we can get to Jimenez here?
Yes. If we could play, I was gonna say we could play Eli, but we're using Varland.
We are using Ball now. Because third, I mean, we can go
Ramirez at third. If you wanted to, we can get to Naylor at first, maybe, and come off of.
I kind of want to keep Crone. I
Okay.
feel like I'll kick myself if we don't play Crone versus a lefty in course.
True.
Like that feels like a shoot myself in the foot spot. So, all right, let's finish off quickly because it's already 6 o'clock here. Outfield, I'm just going to go back to Stowers. I just think it's too good of a spot for him. Shortstop, $5,100. Mateo, we'll that. Love it. Bieber, Varland, Diaz, Crone, Jimenez, Ramirez, Mateo, Grichuk, Profar, and Stowers. That's the Coors lineup for everybody. Get in Discord. Playbook's out. James and I will be back